Great, so we're going to move on to another great roundtable discussion, and this one will be led by our fellow council member, Jane Greenberg, who will lead us in the Disability Inclusion Roundtable. Jane?
Thank you, Dominique, and greetings to all. As you heard earlier, some of the initiatives of the President's Council is to now have a concentrated focus also on how do we get persons with disabilities across the lifespan physically active, because we know that children with disabilities are at a greater risk of being overweight, have poor nutrition habits, and introducing a program which actually began here in this building approximately 10 years ago called I Can Do It, You Can Do It. And I Can Do It, You Can Do It started as a program to take the students that were not able to be included in regular physical education classes in university settings and provide the students with disabilities across all ages, as well as I said, children in the schools, university level, and community centers, provide the persons with disabilities with mentors to help them become physically active. And we know that as the youth with disabilities become more physically active, we've seen that they also have improved in physical fitness scores. We've seen less absenteeism from school, and we've seen so many benefits. And as a result of the implementation, last year, as the President's Council revitalized the program, for us in Miami-Dade schools, it was its 10th year, but for the President's Council taking on this charge is an enormous opportunity to get persons with disabilities physically active. And as we know, we talked earlier about the definition of the council and the mission. It's for all Americans to be physically active. So moving forward, the I Can Do It, You Can Do It program is a program that involves mentors to get persons with disabilities physically active. And despite the issues that adults with disabilities have, and think about this as I'm talking, what fitness clubs provide services for persons with disabilities? With the financial needs, as a person with a disability, have the funds to actually join fitness clubs? What activities in the community centers? And we see what we've been able to do with our children. We've partnered with the Miami Heat, and our children in wheelchairs get to play wheelchair basketball with the Heat wheels. We've partnered with local ice rinks in Miami, and our kids in wheelchairs are now playing sled hockey. We do power soccer. And I have such a passion that I'll put it on the table. I am not an expert in disability. I'm an advocate for equal access. And whatever we do for the children in our schools, we need to do for all children. So I'm going to open it up and keep us on task a little bit. And then we'll come back to where we're going. But I'd like to have this discussion with my fellow council members as, in your space, how can we move forward, and what has been your experience in working with children, adults, youth with disabilities? And Dr. McDonough, I'd like to start with you. Just because you're, as a pediatrician, as a physician, what can we do? How can we get children with disabilities as physically active as you talk to the parents of the children from our general population?
Thank you, Jane. Children with, there's a whole spectrum of children who have disabilities, for the ones who are profoundly disabled in wheelchairs or on ventilators, and just it's a daily struggle to be alive, to children who have intellectual disabilities. Children with Down syndrome, it's a common disability, much more likely to be overweight, and more likely to have problems with Alzheimer and dementia as they get older. So the benefits of good nutrition and exercise for a common genetic disability is very important. The ways that you can access and work with families with children with disabilities, there are a lot of parent advocacy and support groups across the country. Where I live locally, it's called the Designer Genes is the name of the group, led by remarkable parents. They do a annual buddy walk where they walk around the state capitol. There's been this parent group I've worked with has brought in trainers who train adults and children with intellectual disabilities to learn how to ride a bicycle, and they over a period of about a week. Well, it's a week-long program, several hours a day. They start with bicycles with skids on them, and at the end of the week, even adults with moderate intellectual disability are able to ride a bicycle for the first time in their lives, and they may be 30 or 40 or 12-year-old child. And that's something that I've supported in the community, and we refer parents to. It's really important for physicians to be involved in your community, to know what the resources are, and to give this information to parents. A family that has a child with a disability is under significant stress for whole sorts of reasons. And when you're stressed, the family is stressed, one of the first things that they often give up is their physical activity, which compounds their stress. So I think it's really important to support community programs for children and adults with disabilities of all sorts, and to not only support them, to advocate and to let people know what they're about. I'm most familiar with what's in my community. I did have an opportunity to visit the I Can Do It program in Slippery Rock, Pennsylvania, and I was just inspired by the efforts of the college there, the university, to use mentors involving community fitness organizations like the YMCA, where young college students would work with people with disabilities on a one-on-one basis and set goals and work on their individual fitness. That's a really wonderful program. Communities have to look at what resources they have and do the best they can to provide additional resources, and all communities are a little bit different, and the I Can Do It, You Can Do It may not work everywhere. The I Can Bike may not work everywhere, but there's always opportunities to be creative, to find new ways to help people who have disabilities.
I'm glad you brought that up about Slippery Rock. They were one of the first 9 sites to implement the program, and as we grew, we presently have 40 sites around the country. And the way that the program actually works is when a person with a disability participates for 30 to 60 minutes a day for 6 to 8 week intervals, they earn the Pala Plus Award. And in Miami-Dade schools, we started the program with 300 students with disabilities, including autism, physical, intellectual disability, hearing and visually impaired. And last year we gave out 1,500 awards. So it's a good outreach into the community. I'd like to extend the question to other council members. What personal professional experience do you have in the disability space? Anthony, do you want to?
Well, I know from my experience out in Arizona, there's a particular gym that it's equal access. You know, they have this equipment there it's adaptable. So whether you're in a wheelchair, whether you're 2 legs, 1 leg, whatever, you're able to use the machines. And I think that's one of the biggest issues right now, especially for the youth in high schools. You look at these gyms, they're getting this new equipment daily, but they're not paying much attention to the equal access part, to the handicap friendly machines. And I don't know if it's because there's not a lot of knowledge that pertains to that equipment or what, but I know there's limited space, but when you look at these machines, I've seen them firsthand, I've used them, it's not like they take a whole lot more space. You know, they're easily swiveled out, they're easy access, and so I think just there needs to be more awareness that these machines are out there for the high school, so that when they are looking to upgrade their equipment, they can put these handicap-friendly machines in there for the access.
Thank you so much. Carnell, let me ask you a question. You're an expert trainer, and oftentimes in working with persons with disabilities, sometimes there's a lack of education. What would you recommend when you're teaching people how to work with persons with disabilities?
Well, I think what I would recommend is generally what I recommend with working with anybody. And that is, as a trainer, the most important thing is to listen to the person that you're working with, you know, kind of deciding where they want to go, where their goals are, and what they're trying to reach, and then find a way to help them reach their particular goals. A lot of times, you know, we take it upon ourselves to decide we're going to direct you where we want to take you, but it's so important to have the ear to listen and to, you know, to hear what they want to do. And I was listening to Anthony earlier, and I totally agree. It's like, find out what it is that they can do, and those are the areas that you want to emphasize. And then you, as any good trainer, I think, when you see what people can do, then you will then find ways that they can do things that they thought they couldn't do also. So I think that that's, you know, very important.
Michelle?
Well, with working with Special Olympics and being on the board, we're always concerned, as Dr. McDonough highlighted, that people with Down syndrome and autism tend to are prone to obesity. And having Special Olympics sign up for I Can Do It, You Can Do It is really important. And these are athletes all around the world who participate in sports but tend to not really understand the importance of nutritional component. One of the things that we encourage our athletes is sign up for the Pala Challenge. And I think that has been very successful in the last couple of years. But there's so much more that we can do. Special Olympics was founded in the backyard of Eunice Kennedy Shriver 40-some years ago, and it's grown into a movement, about 4 million people. But this movement can increase and can get stronger with the help of initiatives and programs like I Can Do It, You Can Do It, to really further the emphasis on eating healthy and exercising as a great way for healthy living with people with intellectual disabilities.
Great, thank you. Mark, I want to ask you, because Wounded Warriors program, that's now become a focus. And we know that many of the young men and women that went off to war have come back now and addressing issues of being disabled to some degree. Could you address that for us?
Thanks for asking about that. I didn't want to jump in because I do have a lot of, I have done a lot of work with various wounded warriors, not the project or the program itself. But I think the military in itself, the Department of Veterans Affairs, which has recently received a black eye for many things, is doing a magnificent job, in fact, in transitioning those who have lost limbs or have experienced other debilitating wounds into a second life. And there's actually a couple of nonprofits that I would mention. The Ken Fisher Foundation has established in several areas, not only hospitals and centers for family members who are working to bring soldiers and military servants through their experiences in combat, but has also established and paid for something called the Center for the Intrepid, both here in Washington and in Texas, where wounded soldiers, wounded military personnel have gone through the rebuilding of their life after traumatic injuries. And to see and to work with some of these young men and women who have lost not one, not two, but up to 4 limbs, and to see them recover and start living a normal life is just a phenomenal thing. There's also a terrific nonprofit that's called World Team Sports, T standing for The Exceptional Athlete Matters. And it's based out of New York, and they're doing some magnificent work in terms of including a lot of military members who have lost limbs into a program that originally started for young men and women who were born without limbs and who lost them in accidents. So I think one of the things that I've learned from multiple bicycle rides, and I will always cite a young Navy sailor by the name of Nico Morales, who lives now in Texas, taught me on a bicycle ride that if she was recovering from her wounds, she could bring her physical therapy and her exercises to a certain point, and there was nothing to bridge the gap between treating the wound and going into high-level performance. So she decided to go back to school and get her PhD, and now she's working in that area to bring the soldiers and other military members from those who lost legs, who went through the physical therapy, got back to near normal into the realm of high-level athletics, which is phenomenal. And I think the various Paralympic Games has contributed significantly in that area too.
That's great. We heard earlier from...
I'm sorry, Jane, if I could, one more time. There was an event a couple of years ago which continues called the Sea to Shining Sea race. And it literally took amputees and put them on bicycles in San Francisco, and we finished up in Virginia Beach after about six weeks of pedaling. The majority of the people who were on those bicycles had never been on either a recumbent or a regular bicycle before they started the race. And I'm not talking about training, I'm talking about day one of the ride. And I think you see people who overcome those challenges for the first time exhibit some unbelievable mental and physical skills.
As well as everyone that works with the athlete with disability. Curtis, you have experience in working with athletes, and we heard from Tom Ferry, Sport for All. Tell us about your experience as a player and a coach.
First of all, I want to talk about the Wounded Warriors, and I know most of you guys don't know I'm the head baseball coach for the USA, Team USA, for the fiscally challenged baseball team that will be competing in Japan next month. And most of my friends are Wounded Warriors. And in fact, a lot of those players have played on Wounded Warriors softball, amputee softball team. And one thing I've learned from these guys is just incredible. And I was actually playing a celebrity game against the Wounded Warriors amputee softball team. And one thing I learned from these guys is that they go out and they compete the hardest, no matter what kind of physical disability they have. And they would rather have us compete hard, or even harder than them, because they don't want us to kind of stoop ourselves down to their level and take it easy on them. No, because they feel disrespected if we do that. They would feel more respected if we play them hard, just like any other team. And that's what I want to share, because these guys, they've overcome so much. And so it's just kind of inspiring to see them what they've accomplished in a short period of time. Coming back from Iraq or Afghanistan, and be able to recover within a year, 2 years period, and be able to live a normal life, and be able to participate in sports that they were able to, growing up. And I thought it was just inspiring. But that's one thing I want to share with you. But I want to talk to you about my experience growing up. I was born deaf, and I have dealt with a lot of childhood abuse from other kids. Kids make fun of me the way I talk. Funny thing in my ear. And I've always been very active with sports, and I want to be able to participate with different sports. And anytime we play in the playground, I want to play pick a basketball, and I was always the last person to pick because it's a deaf player. Deaf person can't play basketball, or deaf person can't do this, whatever. And so that kind of upsets me, but it motivates me. It wanted me to go out and prove them wrong. And I know my dad wanted me to join the Boys and Girls Club, playing t-ball. But the Boys and Girls Club refused to accept me because of my disability. So my father threatened to file a lawsuit with them, but of course, at the end, they reluctantly to allow me to play. And so this is something I have to deal with. And I'm all for it. I feel that all Boys and Girls Clubs should give everybody, people with disability, regardless of what they have, an equal, fair chance as any other hearing kids. Any other kids. There's one message I want to share with you. I met a young girl from Tennessee when she was 10 years old. And she followed baseball while I was playing minor league ball. And she was legally blind, and she could see past my hand. And she wrote a letter to me saying that she was too scared to play. She tried playing t-ball because of her blindness. And but then one day, just because of me, and she was just fine. Then one day she wanted to come out and try and play T-ball. So when she hit the ball, she would run to first base. She would listen for the coach's voice. As soon as she get close enough to see the base, and then she would be able to run towards the base. So the next batter hit the ball, and then she would run to the coach's voice. As soon as she get close enough to see the base, and that's how she played. But because of that, she was so excited, inspired that wow, even though I'm legally blind, I'll be able to play T-ball. And from that day on, for the rest of her life, it became a confidence builder for her. And that home tour is cool because she felt like she was a part of the team and helped her not only be a part of the team, but helped her with social interaction with the teammates. It's feeling very confident and be able to do well is cool. And then to this day, she's doing great. She graduated from high school and college and became a very successful businesswoman. And so like those are the kind of stories that are very inspiring to a lot of people. And a lot of the people with disabilities, we have that same type of opportunity.
Thank you for sharing that. First of all, good luck next month. Hope your team does well, because I know they will. But you just epitomized what I can do it, you can do it is all about. And it's about a mentor, whether the mentor is with a disability or not a disability, working with a person with a disability to give them the confidence and leadership to help them believe in themselves that they can do something. So Curtis, thank you so much. You just epitomized exactly what I can do it, you can do it is. In the space of the athletes, what can we do better in your sports to work with persons with disabilities to provide better access? We know the U.S. Department of Education put forth a challenge to the schools to get more youth involved in high school athletics. But as we do this, how can you, as various athletes, help us make more opportunities available for persons with disabilities within your own sport? Anybody want to? Misty, let's talk about dance. Dance is so creative. Dance, any movement matters.
Right. I mean, the incredible thing is that we have complete control over our craft, because this is it. There's nothing else kind of outside of ourselves that's involved with it. I don't have a lot of experience with disabled dancers, but I mean, there's a studio in New York City called Steps that is actually really incredible because it's open to anyone. If you can afford to come and pay for the class, it's fair game. So you have professionals from New York City Ballet, American Ballet Theater, and then you have older retired women who are in their 80s with their pointe shoes on, and then you have disabled dancers. We have women in wheelchairs that are there, and they are kind of doing the movements of the feet, but with their hands while we're at the bar. And then they have made ways of making it work. But I don't have a ton of experience with it, but it's a beautiful thing to allow them the exact same opportunity to experience that movement.
And that's exactly what it's about. It's about opportunity for experience. I know Allison, I've had the opportunity to run with visually impaired youth, and we do this with a cord. Have you ever tried that, or tell me about if you've had experience?
I've never done it myself, but I have witnessed a lot, especially there's at the Olympic Training Center in Chula Vista. That is where a lot of it takes place. And I think the coolest thing has been being a professional on the circuit and then also seeing the Paralympians right there with us. I know this season at a number of our meets and our competitions, they're right there intertwined between our events. And so there's a number of different competitions. We're right there. We're seeing the amputees and also the visually impaired. And it's inspiring, to be able to witness that and see everyone being included. It's just a really great thing.
That's incredible.
If I can just tell a quick story, we had a cycling event in Europe for wounded soldiers. And we also included our allied soldiers because they come through, as many of you know, through Landstuhl Hospital, and we treat them as part of the alliance in Afghanistan. And as we put this race together, I was talking to one German soldier who was blinded by an IED, and he heard me talking to a group of other soldiers about going on this race, and he said, "I want to do this too." I said, "Oh, okay, that's going to be sporty. How do we do that?" And the simple solution the soldiers came up with is, let's get a tandem. And they had an athlete, or a soldier athlete who was an amputee on the front part of the bike, with the blinded German soldier, and the amputee in the front part was a Lithuanian. The guy behind him was a German. They didn't speak each other's language. They were both wounded in Afghanistan as part of the security forces there, and that was somewhat of a unique opportunity I think, for both of them. One of the other things, and I think it relates to what we were talking about before with Tom panels in terms of spreading out experiences. In the Center for the Intrepid, what we do specifically is when a soldier loses a limb and we're trying to rehabilitate, we put them in athletic competitions not related to their experiences. I was at the Center of Intrepid in Texas one time when I was still active duty, and they took me into their second floor wave pool. And they have a pool for rehabilitation, but they also had a wave-making device in that too. And there was a young Marine, double leg amputee, on a surfboard in the wave pool. And I watched him for a while with tears streaming down my face, couldn't believe this kid was doing this. And when he finally wiped out on the wave pool, he swam over to the side. I was talking to him and I said, "Wow, you must have grown up in Hawaii to learn how to do that." And he said, "Oh, no, sir." He said, "I'm actually from Montana, and they wouldn't let me ride horses like I wanted to do." So they were taking the kids from New York and putting them on horses to do the roping, while they were taking kids from Montana and putting them on surfboards. So it was a complete out of experience mode, so they could not rely on what they had done in the past in order to gain new skills. And I think that's a critical piece of rehabilitation of disabled athletes.
Thank you. That's great. Caitlin?
Yeah, I think as a hockey player, I mean, sledge hockey has had a huge uprising over the last few years, and anyone who watched the Paralympic Games in Sochi couldn't help but be completely inspired by the performance of the U.S. team. They were just awesome. And I've gotten to meet some of those guys and gotten to be around the sport, and the thing that I've realized more than ever is that by not making sure that we include these athletes and promote these athletes and expand media coverage to the Paralympic Games and all different sorts of competitions, we're missing out on some really great role models and leaders. And so I think that's one thing that we should try to encourage more, is exposure for everyone to these amazing athletes, because they really are, I mean, they're incredible heroes. And that's really, really important, I think, if you want to really demonstrate what sport and achievement and heroes look like across the world.
And that's great. You watch a youth, a person with a disability do something, and you start to question, why can't I do that? And they do. The actual activity just is so inspiring. What can we as a council do? You know, we touched on something that's a little sensitive, that a lot of us don't have a lot of experience. But we work with all Americans. What can we as a council commit to doing to uprise persons with disabilities involved in physical activity, fitness, and sport activities?
Well, I think, to echo what Caitlin just said, continue to give awareness and exposure. I know that there are basketball leagues where wheelchair individuals play, and maybe partner with a league like the NBA and NBA Cares, and then with the President's Council to get that added exposure to people with disabilities still being physically active.
Thank you. That's a great idea, recommendation. Rob, you look like you want to lean in on.
Well, I was just going to say the same thing. We've talked about a bunch of different examples, and I'm familiar with the running example that Allison talked about. And I think most of the races, from a 5K to, the Boston Marathon has those sorts of programs. And when you're, participating and you're running, like Curtis said, those folks are as competitive as you are, and they don't want any, any special treatment. It's incredibly inspiring, and I think that in many ways the race directors and work that we can do to raise that visibility and all the different sports that we talked about, from hockey to everything else, I think could be a great thing we could do.
Thank you so much. Stephen?
I think to continue to support the I Can Do It and try to expand it as much as we can. Also, there may be an opportunity for the council to list other resources that communities can utilize other than I Can Do It, You Can Do It, if they aren't able to pull that one off. Those would be, I think we have done a fair amount in the past, and there's always opportunities to expand it further. If we're able to increase, the budget could be increased, there'd be more opportunities to support communities to implement I Can Do It, You Can Do It.
Just to piggyback off of what Stephen said earlier, you said it is a struggle for parents that have young children with disabilities. I have a younger brother with autism, and I know that my parents were very unaware of any programs back in the 80s where my brother could participate in sports. And there's great local and national organizations like KEEN, Kids Enjoy Exercise Now, where there's not a competitive aspect. It's all about play and having fun and opportunity, and I think we need to get that information in the hands of the parents, because as we've talked about, parents are the biggest role models, and parents are going to be the ones that are going to sign their young kids up for these activities.
Thank you. The personal stories really mean so much. And thanks to Shelley and the council staff, and special shout out to Lauren. There's been a lot of work done with the council on I Can Do It, You Can Do It, and on the website, fitness.gov, is the manual, I Can Do It, You Can Do It, that we're encouraging schools, universities, community centers. There's a section for parents, how to get started, what to do. So I'm absolutely going to encourage everybody to go to the website and view and download the I Can Do It, You Can Do It manual. But again, with some of the new initiatives that Shelley said, I just want to bring back that on Monday, October 6th, the White House Summit will bring together national disability stakeholders from K-12 schools, universities, community-based organizations to share the best practices and implementation of the I Can Do It, You Can Do It program, and challenge and make a commitment to disability and inclusion in their physical activity, nutrition, and obesity programs and policies. And the summit will feature a panel format including personal reflections from myself and a few council members. Anthony and Curtis will be joining me. And I'm very proud to say that I'm going to bring 2 teachers from Miami-Dade County Public Schools. One who has been working with students with physical disabilities for many years, and the second is a Special Olympics coach, our Coach of the Year, that's also an adapted physical education teacher, because when the rubber hits the road, that's where the students get the services. So we're very proud that we have teachers on board there. So again, we're looking at our colleagues at NICHD. The research forum, which will be on the following day, is open to the public, and I encourage everybody, step outside your comfort zone. We need to work with persons with disabilities. We need to work with all Americans. And just because we're not comfortable or don't know enough, that's more the reason we should step up and learn more of what we can and should do. So thank you so much for the opportunity with this roundtable.
Great, thanks, Jane. I'll jump in here and also offer to any of the other council members, if you have availability and can join us on the October 6th or 7th, please let us know, and we'll make sure we have space, and we would love to have you there. We know there are a couple of you coming because we're putting you to work, but we'd love to have any and all of you to attend as well. So good stuff to come there.